Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To moving forward, tonight is a special night, as I'm thrilled to know that my program is getting through to some people, so much so that they see fit to try and block it, as they have tried with other programs on different channels, which, for example, Yardi is the co-producer of one of those. What it shows without a doubt is that when the truth hits its target, some simply get petty and hostile, and it shows how they react and can become when the truth hits them with full force. Countries do the same. What is so important to people like me is that there is no way of hitting back, because truth is forever on the throne. So they look to fire back in a dishonest manner, and therefore resort to a childish, perfidious, pernicious, and somewhat precarious forms of attack, like making every effort to block you. I make this statement tonight in terms of Facebook rules and regulations, who allow such perverse and dishonest acts to take place. No wonder some people move away from Facebook. I know some in high places that refuses to look at Facebook. And now I begin to understand the reason why, although it is much better for a lot of people. At first I found it strange, but now I know what gives. Thank God that there are other means and ways to educate our people to the facts and the truth of life. Those who seem to manipulate Facebook are of the view that if a program preponderance is having a serious effect on their chance of ever winning an election, more so if they continue with a higher echelon of management who are so stupid, even to the extent of displaying some narcissist tendency, is, in my view, without a doubt, wholly despicable, outrageous, egregious, and outstandingly bad, because they cannot face facts, because they are pathological in all they say and do. On another issue, what I find hard to inculcate in my delicate brain is to see that in some people, more so in the present opposition in the St. Lucian politics, is that there is no decency, respect, and above all, humanity about them. When one can call the Prime Minister retarded and wicked, this tells us immediately the caliber of people we are dealing with. Yet that same individual had persons who was the Prime Minister at the time and who could not pronounce so many words in the House of Assembly. This shows the populace how retarded he was, but Guy did not see that or even mention it. Why? Because he looks like the color, I suppose, that is called white, or a light-colored skin tone that fascinates him. In my view, this in itself is gross ignorance. It seems as if their main aim is to build or to insult as much as they can, because they have no other options, nothing substantial to say, because their minds are in the gutter, and a stinking one at that. They speak with a forked tongue about all the wrongs that were implanted in their minds because they were cannon foddered to the higher echelon of the party. They were simply fed with misinformation and disinformation. However, what they simply failed to tell us is when they criticize the present government's actions to develop the country, they don't like is what they will put in place if they were elected. And they were elected for 5.5 long years, yet all they can talk about is modernizing St. Lucia. In one case, by building a box that cost millions to call it a hospital. The question is for whom? When incoming to power, they had a hospital nearly 90% finished. I can vouch for that, as I brought documents from Taiwan in 2012 in terms of plans, drawings, etc., dealing with St. Jude, that I gave to the now deputy leader of the party. As I mentioned before, I have copies of my own. The Taiwanese government company, Holdier, was involved as Taiwan had contributed $4.5 million to the rebuilding of St. Jude. Stephen King can vouch to that because he was the prime minister during the fire in 2009. I believe that it is time the opposition stop playing games and to come forward with the truth. Alan and his team were simply without a doubt incompetent in the way they run the country. In my estimation, they were simply amateurs or pretended to be of another breed or kind. They were simply brash and had, in my view, a pawn shop mentality. Before going on any further, let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Once again, Father, we come to you to thank you and to glorify you because of the guidance you have given to our Prime Minister in despair of the attempts by the evil spirits that seem to be among us. The devil is always at work because it is never about good for him, but evil. All the goodness in the world comes from you, Father, and therefore your strength is huge. We ask you, therefore, to give Philip all the help he needs to bring St. Lucia into the bright light. There are still some patches of darkness because the devil still exists in our politics. Therefore, give the Prime Minister the help and strength he needs by sending down your angels and saints to guide and protect him always, because you are without a doubt the Prince of Peace, the King of Kings, and the Lord of Lords. Amen. Tonight I quote from Romans 15, verses 1 to 6. We who are strong in the faith ought to help the weak to carry their burdens. We should not please ourselves. Instead, we should all please our brothers for their own good, in order to build them up in the faith. For Christ did not please himself. Instead, as the scripture says, the insults which are hurled at you have fallen on me. Everything written in the scriptures was written to teach us in order that we might have hope through the patience and encouragement which the scripture gives us, and make God the source of patience and encouragement, which enable you to have the same amount of view among yourselves by following the example of Jesus Christ, so that all of you together may praise with one voice the God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Before going any further, I do hope and pray that the Foreign Minister of Taiwan, on his way back home, I suppose he might be there by now, will have enjoyed his day in St. Lucia, and that he will have lots to say about the courtesy of our government and the exuberance of the people of the Helen of the West, St. Lucia. I do hope that our government made him feel at home, and that he will make a special visit to St. Lucia in the near future. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight once again, the Taiwanese ambassador have a few words to say, and before allowing him to do so, I feel that I must give some strength and vigor to what he has to say. I have made it clear before in all what I have said in the past that it is unacceptable that Taiwan, as a vibrant democratic country, is to be left sitting outside the perimeters of the United Nations and world assemblies because of China. Taiwan today is one of the richest countries of the world, believe it or not. More so for its size. And that did not come from the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP as we call it. It came from the industriousness of the people, their hard work, and their determination to be the best at what they do. Many may not know that it is the help of the United States and Taiwan who gave China that help that made it into the country it became. However, because of one man's aim to rule the world as a dictator, the walls are simply crashing in on him and China. The people of Hong Kong are now asking them to get out of the country because of the ruination that they have brought to a flourishing part of the world. The youth in China is now getting agitated because regardless of their qualifications, there are simply no jobs. And the doors to other countries are gradually being shut on them. We must never forget Tiananmen Square, the massacre that took place. Not only that, many overseas investors are now leaving China and taking their factories, etc., out of that country. It is sad to see that Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong suffering from a severe shortage of jobs. Then what do we see about was 125 aircrafts that somewhat encircled Taiwan in a supposedly military training, they said. We now see a visit by Xi Jinping as close to Taiwan as possible. Is this a deliberate form of intimidation? Well, he's living in a fool's dictatorship paradise, because that is not the one that the Taiwanese people want, because they are satisfied with what they have. But Xi Jinping is a desperate dictator at present. We even saw live fire close to Taiwan. Well, tonight we will hear the plea of the ambassador of Taiwan, Peter Chen, making that to the world that Taiwan be allowed to participate in the UNFCCC and Interpol world discussions. In my view, there is no doubt that Taiwan is strongly committed to every issue that deals with climate change and global warming. The international community in the Eastern Caribbean state must stand with Taiwan on this issue. Taiwan has done everything possible to abide by the rules and regulations put out by the UNFCCC, and yet they seem to be ignored due to a China that is now gradually receding into a third world country, regardless of its size. Many, as I said, manufacturing countries are leaving China and have left, yet China thinks it can bully the executive member of the body, that is United Nations, because they have infiltrated it with its own, as they have done in the United Nations on the whole, and are allegedly said paying their lackeys. This has to stop, and the world body must begin to take its duties seriously. Even the idea that only 5 countries have a vote is preposterous. A veto vote, that is. When these countries don't abide by the rules and regulations, enough is enough of this dishonest charade that has taken place. On the Interpol issue, I just fail to understand how the UN can refuse Taiwan entry based on one China issues. It's simply unacceptable. Taiwan is one of the safest countries in the world. And not only that, for population size, one of the best figures as far as crime is concerned. Why can that body accept Taiwan and learn from them? It just does not make sense. Yes, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and St. Kitts, you now have to start blowing your horns louder so that the whole world can hear 3 small islands asking for justice for the Taiwanese people. Even in agriculture, Taiwan is one of the most modern countries in that field. Therefore, in terms of law enforcement, crime fighting, cooperation, equal opportunities, agricultural advancement, it is one of the best in the world, and therefore for countries, they have helped to participate in their exclusion is unacceptable. Let us now hear the ambassador for Taiwan in St. Lucia, Peter Chen.
Good day, I am Peter Chen, ambassador of the Republic of China, Taiwan to St. Lucia. As we all recognize, the world is facing numerous challenges. Today, I would like to highlight Taiwan's strong commitment to combating climate change and transnational crime, and emphasize the importance of Taiwan's inclusion in the international organization like the UNFCCC and Interpol. Climate change and extreme weather represent the greatest challenges confronting human society today. As a responsible member of the international community, Taiwan continues to actively engage the public and private sectors and work with its diplomatic allies and other like-minded countries to promote concrete climate action. In the Caribbean region, Taiwan is working with Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, and making contributions to the Eastern Caribbean Solar Challenge, Race to the Sun, for 3 consecutive years. Taiwan also signed an agreement with CARICOM Development Fund, taking a significant step to energy efficiency and green transition. The era of global warming has ended, and the era of global boiling has arrived. Taiwan, which experienced the devastating impact of typhoons every year, deeply understands the destructive power of these storms, as we are facing in St. Lucia. Through various agricultural projects and training workshops, Taiwan is actively working towards sustainable solutions with the government of St. Lucia to further consolidate and achieve shared co-prosperity with its diplomatic allies. Taiwan is committed to strengthening cooperation on carbon credit initiatives. This collaboration aims to address both the opportunities and challenges of the transition to net zero by 2050. As a responsible member of the international community, Taiwan is willing and able to engage in law enforcement efforts to combat transnational crime, such as human trafficking and cyber fraud, which affected our daily life and public safety. Taiwan supports Royal St. Lucia Police Force and other law enforcement sectors of St. Lucia in upgrading the equipment and capacity building. In addition, Taiwan and St. Lucia signed a treaty of mutual legal assistance in criminal matters in 2023, not only making a new chapter of crime-fighting cooperation, but also demonstrating Taiwan's commitment in global security network. However, due to the political reasons, Taiwan has been long excluded from Interpol. The resolution adopted by Interpol at its 53rd General Assembly in 1984 did not preclude Taiwan's participation. Without Taiwan, the network of maintaining international security is incomplete. Climate change knows no borders, just as transnational crime threatens all nations and people alike. Like other countries, Taiwan should be afforded equal opportunity to participate in international organizations such as the UNFCCC and Interpol. Taiwan's exclusion from the UNFCCC and the Interpol weakens global efforts, creating gaps in international cooperation and reducing the chances for effective solutions. Therefore, we call on all members of the UNFCCC and Interpol to allow Taiwan to participate in related meetings, mechanisms, and activities. I would like to take this opportunity our deepest appreciation to St. Lucia, along with our other diplomatic allies and like-minded countries, for their ongoing and unwavering support for Taiwan's campaign in this regard. My dear friends in St. Lucia, Taiwan can help, and Taiwan will always stand by your side. Once again, I invite you to join us in urging the UNFCCC and Interpol to uphold the value of inclusiveness by allowing Taiwan's meaningful participation. Together, we can create a safer world and prosperous for all. Thank you.
Thanking you, Ambassador, and I concur with you 150%. This cannot be what humanity is all about. How can anyone trust the United Nations when they behave to Taiwan, an independent, vibrant, democratic country, to be treated like a pariah state? We must stand up and say to China that enough is enough, and that you have not the right, under international law, to claim what is not yours, as you are trying to do with India, Russia, Japan, Malaysia, Vietnam, and other countries. It is at this stage, juncture, I'll take my first break. Welcome back to Moving Forward. Now onto the home front. More so, where the CIP issues seem to have subsided somewhat when facts are put to the people and the opposition who should instead be looking for a hole to creep in, they now seem to be on the attack once again on crime. Before delving into the subject, I do want to ask the opposition's leader a few questions on the CIP issue. Was it not him who said that T.O.R. King was advised to have an extra account in China, which he did, when no money in the account is in the account, as is being said now? I didn't say it. I heard it in the House. Was any CIP money used for the make-believe races we had on that makeshift horse racing track that was built? Who paid for the $13 million road to the horse racing track? Further to that, who paid for the garbage being transported to Dayglow? Who paid for those horses that was given honorary treatment by being given the best that money can buy, like food, etc., when young children were going to bed in St. Lucia without food? Now we hear Alan talking about the poor, which he never cared about, more so with his Fortuna doctrine. Has he forgotten that? Where can we find a copy of the deal that was done with T.O.R. King, more so where he paid for the 500 acres of land that he was supposed to have now owned? I'm asking because we are hearing a lot of talk, but there are no facts to substantiate what has been said. These questions have to be answered, and without a doubt must be thoroughly investigated. Another vital question to the leader of the opposition is to give us a list of all the projects that CIP monies were used for during his time in office. Not only that, why some of the deal they did was not in Hansard. Were they underhand and dishonest deals? The mind certainly boggles. Now I want to take on the crime issues that the opposition seem to think that it is a vote catcher because the government can be put on the back foot. Well, they will have a lot of crying to do because they have only just begun to cry, or the crying has just begun. The leader spoke about how they control crime during COVID-19 by bringing other agencies together every month in order to combat crime during that period. What a load of tripe, sheer crap by the leader of the opposition. This individual forgot that there was a curfew, not only in St. Lucia, but all over the world. This is how this individual and his imbeciles like to cover up their inefficiencies and blatant lies. What he forgot to tell us is that we still had crime taking place. And the moment the curfew was over, crime seemed to have ballooned because those criminals were putting their plans in place. The opposition's lies seriously make them a threat to our fledgling democracy in St. Lucia. St. Lucians, open your eyes in terms of how we were taken for a ride by the last government. Only a dreamer will not realize that we were conned by amateur con merchants who had learned their craft from their English friends, and con merchants in an act in and out of our society, like Martinez and Rejock. During COVID-19, the World Bank gave a certain amount of money to help third world countries like us to get over that period, because it was tough going. Dominica spent the money wisely that was given to them. I would like to ask the St. Lucian government then, what was the money spent on? And to detail exactly how it helped the citizens of this country. I'm sure they will give answers that are unbecoming. I once again ask them as to where did the money for the desilting of the dam disappear to? Where is the barge and other instruments bought for doing the job? Please explain what took place. Further to those questions, I ask another. Why did it take so long to open Was it being preserved for the grand opening of the alleged private medical facility by our Cayman friends? We are all aware that it was not for COVID-19. It would not, if it was not for COVID-19, it would not have been opened then. This present Prime Minister had said quite categorically that his government will build the fifth finger, that is Philip, fifth finger of that medical facility that at present has four. That will be part of the development of the medical service of this country. At times, I'm a bit flabbergasted when I hear the opposition deliberately lying on what took place under their watch between 2016 and 2021. And when the present chief medical officer was also theirs. What does she not openly say? That some of what is being said by the opposition was simply untrue. And give the factual information of what was happening. This is just food for thought, because it seems as if the opposition tends to forget that. Facts are facts, because everything was within her domain as far as medical information is concerned, unless they were hiding some of it from her. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the good Lord thought that after 5.5 long years of misery and suffering for some, he decided he too had had enough. And when the Alan Shasnek government thought that they were sitting tightly and would not be defeated, they were so cocky, especially their deputy leader today. They had a shock coming to tear them to pieces. The one Almighty sent us a spiritual gift in the person of Philip Joseph Pierre, and have since made an impact on the lives of many people. What we are seeing is a radical transformation from what we had before. The tunnel that was dark and bleak is not. It is now lit, and we can begin to see where we are going. What we have now seen is that love, patience, kindness, self-control, all these have manifested in the life of Philip, and therefore by the people who have been transformed because they see hope where there was none before. There is light when there was darkness, because the people have a leader who cares. He's not superficial, but a genuine character. Yes, indeed, a character change in the people is now an ongoing process. Tonight I'm asking some serious questions, and we need some answers, especially where it deals with taxpayers' money and borrowed monies for projects by the last government that never came to fruition or on board. Alan, I will never let you forget. Unless you decide to put your hands in your pocket and pay us back our $7.3 million that was paid for vaccines that the country never received. Whereas some benefited from the country's monies. And it is alleged that one was tied to the Prime Minister then. I am asking about the money for the desilting of the dam also. And that was never done. And now worse than ever. In building the modern St. Lucia, more so the St. Jude Hospital, which was a sight for sore eyes. When the reprobates of the last government showed me any modern building that they built, in looking back at a program where the then Minister of Economic Affairs made it clear that if he could not build the St. Jude in so many years in office, then he should not be in politics. At one time he even said 6 months. He's such a fake. He then began talking about 4 years from that date. He said from the date the job began. Many are of the opinion that he was the biggest fake and boaster that we have ever had in government. Here are the nincompoops that were going to build the modern St. Lucia. And I will repeat, yet they were the ones to invest in Cobot, in Ojo Labs, and others. With the Cobot deal, they even wanted to throw in the public beaches into the deal that we, in a sense, were paying for because the money was borrowed from our national insurance funds. Honestly, when I think about this, I simply go berserk because here was a millionaire, we were told, now making millions out of our own monies. We must be suckers, ladies and gentlemen. That is why Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley reminded us that we must be proud of our color, to be black, and proud of that. But some in this country seem to still love licking the asses of foreigners who come here looking white. White? Why was this deal given to us? Why was this deal not given to a St. Lucian with a bit of money? The question I would like to put to Alan and Guy is to show me what modern project that they have built in 5.5 years in this country. I personally would like them to show me what investment they made with CIP monies, apart from the DSH escrow account. Are there any others overseas? As at this juncture, I'll take my next break and I'll come back. Welcome back to Moving Forward. And I was speaking about Alan and what the last government can say they built in this country. Alan and his poodle simply did not value our heritage, nor the personal lies that existed about the beautiful country of ours, more so the one that existed in John Compton's party. Ladies and gentlemen, there was an individual trying to clarify what quid pro quo was all about. And in giving the meaning, the individual could not even pronounce the simple word reciprocal. He tried it quite a few times, but it became laughable as I listened. Here's a man not really qualified in any subject per se, yet there he is, as if he was a professor, trying to explain something to us that he had difficulty in explaining. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, these are the people they have selling their garbage in the public domain. That is the left. That is what they left. They have since brought on qualified people. But these people simply have pieces of paper. But much of what they say are lies, misinformation and disinformation. There is simply no logic to their explanation of anything they try to explain. With the pieces of paper they have, they don't have practical experiences. And that is what helps to make one wise and to acquire wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned last week, we had a crowd of the United Records of the Poor outside, of the United Records of the Poor outside the house, and their demand was clear and concise. We want answers on CIP. Well, they did get answers, but it seems to have choked them somewhat. So they now have taken up on health, as I said before. What I really want to know from the opposition is what transpired about the deal concerning the Alpine Hotel and Square, which would have involved CIP monies. Also, what about the range development, which was sold in the end, was going to be sold as a donation, and how this could be done as a real estate. And that also, I want to know more, as I said, about the Alpina and Range deal. Not many in the public domain are kicking up a fuss on a piece of dishonesty that has transpired, and we simply have put it at the back of our minds until the minister spoke about it in the House. Those who were demonstrating outside the House of Assembly wanted answers. And what did they do when these bad deals that were taking place was revealed to them? Oh, they simply put it at the back of their minds and now want to go on to crime, health, and other things. They want to throw as much dirt as they can in the hope that some will stick. These are the same people who were useless at both the subject of crime and the health of the nation. They are so stupid that they fail to realize that it was because of their poor management of the economy and the country that much of what is transpiring today is costing this government time and money to put right. Because of their inefficiency, those seeds, they don't realize those seeds were planted while they were in office because they simply did not care. They were more interested in private hospitals and would have turned what we have today into private hospitals as if they would have been sold to foreigners or given to foreigners. Not only that, was it not alleged that some doctors were working with the Cayman Islands group in the Cayman Islands while still on payroll of our health service? Question, is that right or wrong? The facts are there and clear to see, unless you are a dummy like the majority of their upper echelon of that party. We should ask the Choiseul man to explain all this to us. What is amazing after listening to the minister in the House is that those deals were never gazetted when it should have been, because the rules were being broken when it suited the previous government, especially during the deals they were doing underhand. In office, as the Prime Minister, Allen said that his party was building a new St. Lucia because the St. Lucia CIP then had EC $131.2 million in it. What did he do with that? If that was so, what was it spent on? Because we would all like to know for a fact. Well, I can say personally that I never heard of anything in terms of CIP initiatives in the development of the country. Only the one dealing with T.O.R. King. However, there have been so much lies on that front that my mind have literally become saturated with the lies that seem to emerge every month, every day. There's so much double dealing that the mind boggles, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. That is why I'm sure Kenny in the House wanted to know how much was held by T.O.R. King in his escrow account in China on behalf of the people of St. Lucia. This to me was an important question. And so far, we have had no answers. It seems as if Allen simply forgets that he was the one who made mention of this escrow account of T.O.R. King in China. Much of the dealing we had with T.O.R. King seemed to be a cloak and dagger affair, because when it suits the leader of the opposition, he surprises us with no answer. My question that I have asked before, if 500 acres of land was sold to T.O.R. King at $60,000 an acre or more, where is that money at this present juncture? Ladies and gentlemen, again, I have to ask, where are those horses that were in St. Lucia and which cost us an arm and a leg? Where are they now? Oh, I forgot. It is a song that I had heard a few times. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been taken to be fools by the last government, because much of what they propose, we very seldom heard about it. Yet today, instead of apologizing for the rotten way they run the country, they simply have no shame and want, if possible, to pass the blame for their neglect on this government. We have to say to Allen and his bother boys that enough is enough, and we cannot stomach you any longer, because the higher echelon of your party are now clearly con merchants, as alleged, who don't give a damn about the poor people of this country. There's no doubt in my mind that when your party speaks about the poor, you do so with a lump in your throat. because you simply don't believe in it. All your lot are concerned about is to try and win the next election at all costs, whether it is through blatant lying or any form of dishonest act. We're seeing the same thing with Trump in the United States. Did Alan not make every effort to go there to kiss Trump's toes, so much so he was then called Tropical Trump? When I think of that similarity, I can understand why Kenneth Ridgeway, who admitted that he is a convicted money launderer, in one of his articles, as the minister pointed out, on March 21st, 2021, he said in the article, which I will repeat, that minister said in the House, that St. Lucian Prime Minister, and he was talking about Alan, his criminal misconduct justify his removal and arrest. Alan Shastny's administration operates in a plan similar to a former administration where every cabinet minister official is for sale if the price is right. Can you believe that? A man writing this? In effect, crime and corruption, he said, is still the order of the day. He's alluding to that. Individuals like these can only be described as con merchant or women, and without a doubt, pathological in their mannerisms. Honestly, the blatant lies are what I cannot take. One day this individual tells you something, and next day he says quite categorically that he never said it. So, when it is recorded in the House, if we will remember, he promised to bring conclusive facts about the nature of the government CIP mismanagement, and he never produced anything. Nor posted anything. It was just mere words to incite and simply nothing behind it. He continues to do this, just like his deputy and their spiders. And one we call, or the few we call Coco Lorums, playing to the crowd. One I will never forget is the individual who met the Prime Minister in Soufrière, where he greeted the Prime Minister as a long-lost brother, and later was throwing derogatory remarks at the Prime Minister's visit, when he said to someone that he will simply refuse to buy, because the Prime Minister said to this individual, he will refuse to buy him rum or alcohol. Any man can make mistakes, only a fool insist on the errors. And Guy Joseph continued to do so when he takes pot shots at Philip. And every time he has shown that he's making an ass out of himself. I could not believe that that he made such a statement and used words to the effect, look at Marchand, after 25 years that he has held the constituency, and what the state of the constituency's office is about. Shabby, he said, things like that. How can this place befitting a prime minister? This, in my view, is simply disgusting and unacceptable. This nonentity of an individual even went as low as he can go with his insults, to the extent of calling the PM and saying that the man is too nasty and classless. When one watch his office, the state of his office, and Marchand. He even went on to make the remark that the whole of Castries East has become a ghetto. What the jackass will not want us to remember is that when they were in power, they virtually did nothing for Castries East. Even the playground that was a sight to behold was closed, or funding had been stopped. They also forgot that they did nothing for one of St. Lucia's favorite playgrounds, the Marshall cricket and football fields. I don't want to take sides, but I'm sure that the majority of St. Lucian will say, if asked about the two of them, that Philip carries himself with pride and dignity, and is also always, in my view, well-dressed. When one looks at the other, you can virtually see what was once termed a country bouquet, Magadusa. Not only that, I have mentioned before that Philip speaks better English than he does and is able to pronounce his words with clarity. Not only that, he's better qualified than that nincompoop. I therefore say to the Prime Minister that he has to be strong, because the opposition is coming to the realization that he is beginning to do a terrific job of work putting St. Lucia back on its feet. For them, the lights have been turned off. Why? Because the truth is plain to see. The people's eyes are now open, as they were closed for 5.5 long years, with promises that never materialize in modernizing this St. Lucia. The Prime Minister, in my view, is winning the hearts of the people because he's not alienating anyone. He's without a doubt working in the interests of all, red, yellow, blue, or green, and the opposition finds that hard to swallow. Tonight, I once again want to repeat what I said last week in regards to the Minister of Tourism's delivery in the House. What took place on Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024, was simply sensational and mind-blowing. That day must go into history as a day when the House and the people of St. Lucia were speechless because the leader of the opposition was blown to smithereens, because he and his followers wanted answers. And they got it. They simply did not have a leg to stand on in terms of the CIP issue. They were exposed as con merchants and pathological liars. The coup de grace were the words written by Kenneth Rejock that many had not heard before in his description of Alan Chasney. I do hope that all St. Lucians now realize how they were simply conned by a real con artist. Once again, I say that the Minister Hilaire's speech stunned Alan supporters outside the House of Assembly. They all seemed to be looking for a place to hide. Oh yes, the minister was simply brilliant in his dissection of issues dealing with CIP. And again I said, oh yes, I repeat that he was simply brilliant. And I'm sure that Alan himself was taken aback, even when the description of Rejock about him, that he was comparable to a con man and a pathological liar. There's no doubt that we all want to know about this, as I said before, Alpina Hotel and Square deal, which took place in January 11th, 2021. I'm sure that Alan is now haunted by his words on CIP, as he's aware that every issue he brought up on CIP is now coming back to haunt him. In truth and in fact, I cannot remember one project that Alan conveyed to the public that he was building due to CIP funds. There always seemed to be a cloak and dagger affair in that regard. What is despicable, outrageous, and egregious in regards to Alan, as he has been alleged, is that he conspired with Martinez, a fraudster, and Rejock, a self-proclaimed money launderer, to try and tarnish the reputation of St. Lucia because they were so obsessed in bringing down the unity government of St. Lucia. Martinez, for example, have never been to St. Lucia, yet in his RICO case with the St. Kitts government and Galaxy, deliberately brought in Claude Emmanuel into the fray. Well, all this is backfiring. It is hard to believe that an ex-prime minister of this country could sink that low. Ah, well, did he not say that he was a product of Canada? Well, Philip Joseph Pierre is a product of St. Lucia, and so am I. Proud to be so. In closing, I want to say quite categorically that Alan, Guy, Spider, Dominic, Nancy, and others are a danger to our system of democracy. And I'll take a break there to come to my last. Welcome back to Moving Forward. And I was talking about the higher echelon of the last party we had, the United Records of the Poor. They're all fakes and people who try the utmost to distort the truth. They must take into their grey matter that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Guy once said in the House that history can be cruel, but the present can be crueler. And that is what happened in the House when Minister Hillet took them apart on the CIP issue. This is the same guy who said that if he cannot finish the hospital in his time in office, then he does not deserve to be in politics. Remember all that. What we now want from Alan is to explain to us what took place in terms of, again, I go back to it, Alpina Hotel and Square deal, together with the range development deal, approved as a CIP real estate development, but changed into a donation option. There is no authoritative changes that allow real estate to be sold as a donation or used as a, oh yes, he should start to answer on both the Alpina deal and the range deal. There was without a doubt a cloak and dagger affair, as I've said before, taking place, which in my book is the heights of dishonesty to the people of this country. He's the same guy on many different occasions who said quite categorically later that it would take 4 years, that's Guy Joseph, to build St. Jude, and that is when the work really begins. Once again, I come to the end of the program, but wish that I had more time, because there is so much to discuss in terms of the rotten deal we St. Lucians had under the last government of Alan Shastney. Because throughout the 5 years and a half, we have been fed with lies and more lies. This was without a doubt a con merchant of a prime minister, together with his reprobates and party poopers. That is why I'd want to know a little bit more about this Pajura letter. Ladies and gentlemen, always remember that truth is forever on the throne. And any deceit and lies will sooner or later be found out, as we saw in Minister Hillet's time bomb delivered in the House. It has without a doubt blown the opposition to smithereens. Now, without a doubt, they're fumbling in the dark. Once again, brothers and sisters, you must have faith in this present government of Philip J. Pierre, as he was sent to us from the One Most High. I remind you once again to never forget that you were born black, just like our Prime Minister. And we should be proud of that. So take care. And keep believing in the One Most High. Therefore, I say good night to you, my listeners, and to go in peace to serve the One Most High. I say good night and good night.